Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, while I support the broader objectives of this bill, particularly the administrative amendments that seek to streamline our land and sea transport regulations for greater efficiency, I have a number of questions regarding the proposed amendments to the Bus Services Industry Act, BSIA, concerning security screening and searches. We have already traveled this road with the rail network. The legal provisions for mandatory screening, including X-ray scans and frisk searches, were variously introduced under the Rapid Transit Systems Act, RTSA, and implemented in phases in 2018 and 2021. I have no issue with the principle of transport security, but I have some questions regarding the proposed expansion to the bus network and ensuring that we learn from the rollout on the MRT. One, justification for expansion. What did we learn from the RTSA rollout? The existing security paradigm has already been seen the implementation of enhanced security MRT stations, many of which are physically integrated with bus interchanges. I would like to ask the Minister, what are the key operational or threat-based lessons drawn from the implementation of mandatory screening and frisk searches on the MRT-LRT network that necessitate this extension to the bus network? How often were the searches carried out, and what was the level of non-compliance on the MRT? Can the Minister clarify the specific heightened threat assessment, if any, that necessitates extending powers of frisk searches and mandatory screening to our bus interchanges and onboard public buses at this time? Can the Minister also provide a detailed explanation of the specific and unique threat profile to the bus network? Finally, given that buses and bus interchanges are inherently more porous than enclosed rail systems, how effective will mandatory screening be, and how can we avoid creating unnecessary tension, especially given passenger loads during peak times? Two, operational challenges and effect on seamlessness and commuter flow. The LTA has previously stated that the time taken for random screening on the MRT is kept to a minimum, often under 30 seconds. However, the operational environment of a bus interchange and a public bus is vastly different from a fare-controlled MRT station. Touching on issues of operational impact and public convenience, how will the LTA and the bus operators ensure these checks, whether on a moving bus or at a busy bus interchange, do not cause disproportionate delays to commuter journeys, which rely on rapid boarding and alighting? Specifically for bus interchanges, they are co-located with MRT stations like Jurong East, Woodlands, or Ang Mo Kio, where commuters may have already been screened upon entering the MRT. What steps will be taken to prevent the duplication of checks and thus minimize commuter inconvenience? What is the projected manpower requirement to staff for these new screening points at bus interchanges? And will this draw resources away from other crucial public transport operations? Three, safeguards and training. Applying the approved person experience. Like the RTSA, extending the proposed powers to approved persons under the BSIA similarly necessitates a high level of public confidence and scrutiny. On accountability and safeguards, the implementation of frisk searches on the rail network was backed by the 2021 legislative amendments. Could the Minister elaborate on the specific post-2021 training enhancements and refresher courses introduced for approved persons under the RTSA, and how will these proven standards be directly adopted or even enhanced for the new cohort of bus-related approved persons? Can the Minister explain, for the benefit of the public, what are the specific protocols that will govern a frisk search on board a public bus or at a bus interchange? Are there any protocols to ensure both commuter privacy and officer safety? Mr. Speaker, Singaporeans understand the need for security, just as we also value clarity and efficiency. There is the opportunity to apply the lessons learned from the RTSA introduction to make the BSIA amendments as seamless and publicly acceptable as possible. This expansion must be a justified necessity beyond mere legislative symmetry. I look forward to the Minister's clarification on the matters of necessity, operational efficiency, and critical safeguards. Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding the concerns I've raised, I support the bill.
I also thank Mr. Dennis Tan for his queries on how LTA has incorporated lessons from security operations already conducted under the RTSA and how we will minimize the impact on bus commuters. Powers to conduct security screenings at our public transport nodes, including at bus premises, is not new. As I mentioned in my speech, these powers already exist in the Road Traffic Act 1961. But what we are doing here is to consolidate it under the amendment, under the proposed amendments. Our transit security officers already conduct random screening to keep out threats from our public transport network. These screenings are stepped up depending on prevailing threat levels. Such screening remains a necessary deterrence. As noted in the latest Singapore Terrorism Threat Assessment Report released in July this year, our public transport nodes, including bus interchanges, remain attractive targets for malicious actors because of high foot traffic. Based on the experience of LTA and public transport operators, commuters are generally understanding and cooperative. Each search takes less than 1 minute. Only police and senior approved persons are allowed to conduct frisk searches, and it will be only done on a need-to basis. As far as staffing is concerned, a point that Honourable Member Mr. Dennis Tan raised, no additional manpower is required. As I mentioned earlier, the amendment here is serves to consolidate the powers from the RTA to the BSIA. But as Ms. Pereira pointed out, the safety risks and enforcement in bus settings will differ from that of the trains. Our bus captains are one-man operations. They have to focus on driving buses, helping those who need assistance, and keeping passengers safe. When they spot behavior that is disruptive or causing nuisance to other passengers, or if passengers report such behavior to them, they will stop their buses to report to the Operation Control Center, or the OCC, where there are trained personnel to advise them on the next course of action. If the behavior is dangerous, they will have the authority to stop the bus service for the safety of the passengers. The police will be activated for cases where passengers get violent or if there are other safety or security concerns.